This is Business Therapy, healing businesses from the inside out through communication and emotional intelligence. I'm Diane Dye Hansen, management consultant, with co-host Christine Salvo, therapist, certified mediator, and certified hypnotherapist.
Good morning. Hello, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. And today on the show, we have Johnna Devereaux. And Johnna has been a small business owner for over a decade. She's a clinical pet nutritionist and the founder of Fetch RI, a holistic pet boutique and supply retail store. She has been featured as a trailblazer in the pet industry by Pets Plus magazine, and her store, Fetch RI, was awarded Best of Rhode Island by Editor's Pick and Reader's Choice. In 2019, Johnna joined Bow Wow Labs pet product company as a member of their board of advisors and a member of the company's executive committee. She was recently named Bow Wow Labs Director of Nutrition and Wellness as the company expands into treats, supplements, and food, and is heading their education and resource center. This year, Johnna was named a Woman of Influence in the Pet Industry by Pet Age magazine. Welcome to Business Therapy, Johnna.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for coming on the show. And, as we were talking before the show, you were telling me how this foray into the pet industry was not a full-time venture initially. It was a side adventure. So how did all of your business develop?
Well, I mean, technically, I opened the store Fetch RI back in 2014. So that has been my primary career, and I became a pet nutritionist. Bow Wow Labs and working with Bow Wow Labs has been the new venture for me, and expanding from being a small business owner where I'm dealing one-on-one with consumers in a retail environment to now being on a national platform, and working in a completely different capacity with a team around me. So I'm no longer the decision maker. I'm one of the decision makers, but not the final decision maker. So it's been a blessing for me. It's been a great joy. At the end of the day, I'm doing what makes me happy. And so I'm blending and I'm adapting and I'm navigating these waters as I go. But I've always loved pets. I love dogs and cats, and I'm navigating my way right now through balancing both.
So I want to comment on, I love this. You said this so gracefully. You said blending. So, I have some curiosity here because the questions that strike my mind are, so you went from self-employed, right? So you have your business, and now you joined a new venture where you're part of a team and you're blending.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, I've been self-employed for about 11 years now. This September will be 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I've tried to blend, because I've had some difficulty there, right? Because I'm used to calling the shots. I'm used to having it my way. I'm used to making the decisions, and I'm a sole proprietor, so it's easy. It's just me.
Right.
But when that blending term that you said and the way you said it really kind of implied to me that there is some learning curve in that, and that some ventures you do alone and some ventures you do with people, and you kind of you're required to be flexible to make all that happen.
Yeah, flexible, definitely. What's happening is that my skills, I think, are becoming sharpened. Being a part of Bow Wow Labs and being a part of this magnificent team that's been put together of professionals is making me hear other voices and other opinions. And that's something that, as a self-employed person, I don't necessarily have to do. I mean, obviously,
Right.
I want to listen to my employees, but at the end of the day, the final decision is my decision to make, whether they like it or not. And so it's fine-tuning my skills of listening, of how I present information at the same point in time in a way that is useful for the team, and how to identify future projects and my ideas. And at the same point in time, it's keeping me humble because my idea may not be the best one in the room anymore. So I really do feel like that being a part of Bow Wow Labs is actually making me a better owner of Fetch RI. if that makes sense.
I think that's a really great perspective, and I think that's something really to share, because being self-employed, like you said, for a long period of time, you have to seek out the information. You have to seek out being kind of cutting edge, but you don't necessarily know where you stand because it's you. And if you're doing well and you're successful, it's easy to kind of get in that comfort zone.
Well, and the consumer for my store, for Fetch RI, that I am, um, geared towards, they obviously are responding well to what I'm doing. So I don't really have to sidestep very often because I have my audience. And with Bow Wow Labs, I am looking at a wider audience. I'm not just looking at Rhode Island and parts of Connecticut and Massachusetts. We're looking at the entire country and potentially going internationally. And so it's making me think outside of the box in ways that I necessarily might not have otherwise had to think outside the box. When you're a small business owner, you're thinking, how can I get in front of people, and the marketing aspect, and how deal with social media and what promotions you can run. And now I'm working with teams, that we have a creative team, and we have, a CEO and a COO and a CFO and all of these resources. And I really am learning every day. And it's just, it's a great thing for me personally, to be a part of.
So how has that experience made Fetch RI better?
Well, so one of the really cool things is that, because I do have a voice on the executive committee and I'm on the board of advisors of Bow Wow Labs, is I've been fighting for the small businesses, the small brick and mortars, and especially during this time that we are all sequestered at home, right? Because of coronavirus. I'm fighting for the small business. So Bow Wow Labs has agreed. They've made my store a test store. So I get to bring their products that right now is only available through e-commerce into my store to test it out with consumers. And their best product is it's called a Bully Buddy. It's a safety device for bully sticks. I don't know if you all are all aware, but
Yeah.
bully sticks are like the number one treat that dogs love. And it's also a number one choking hazard. So this device prevents dogs from choking on that last inch. And I've been able to bring it into my store, and the feedback has been overwhelming. I sold over 50 in the first month. And so now I've been able to, with my customers, go back to the team at Bow Wow Labs and say, listen, there are people that want to walk into a store, have it in their hands, and walk out. They don't want to wait for ship time, for 2-day turn time. So we are now discussing going into independent pet stores, which is a small victory for me because that's where my heart is. And it's where the heart of the country, as far as I'm concerned, is in small business. So it's worked really well for Fetch, because I'm getting, I'm getting to be the test center, and I'm also able to kind of pay it forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like you've kept the doors open in innovative ways over at Fetch RI. How have you kept the doors open? Are you doing curbside ordering, or how are you operating right now in this pandemic time?
Well, so one of the things that I saw, just a few weeks prior to stay-at-home orders being delivered for the state of Rhode Island, I kind of saw that it was trending that only essential businesses were going to be deemed able to be open. So I made a push through local media and with our local representatives to have our governor announce pet stores as being deemed an essential business. And luckily that did happen. So we have been able to stay open as an essential business. We have been kind of redefining how we have our doors open by providing curbside pickup. I've had to expand my website, which was actually a blessing in disguise, right? Because the website, when you're in a retail store, is one of the biggest headaches that you have, but it's made me put more of my products online on our website so that people can either get it shipped or pre-order and pick it up curbside. We also do have a lot of people that still want to come into the store. So we're instilling the practices of social distancing. We're limiting, there's no more than 5 people allowed in the store. I'm also an herbalist, so I've been making my own hand sanitizer. So we have hand sanitizer and gloves. Now we all are wearing masks, obviously, with the new orders that have come forward. But I have to say, I'm really lucky that the foundation of what I've built for my business and what I deliver to my consumers has really helped keep us afloat. I know I'm one of the lucky ones. I have not had to reduce any of the hours of my employees.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been, I feel really blessed to be able to, just for everything that I've built, that I've been able to do that. And if nothing else, keep my employees at their normal wages, right, from week to week. Um, so it's been pretty phenomenal.
That is a really great concern. I mean, that's something that you're bringing up, that so many small business owners have this heavy weight on their shoulders of their employees.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are, at the end of the day, they are the heart and soul of our businesses, right? I mean, yeah, we are the brains, but if we can't rely on them for their customer service, for them showing up day after day and being, essentially mirrors of us and what we want our consumers to feel when they walk through a store, then what good are we, right? We can't be a solo team. Even though unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, I love being self-employed, but it's hard sometimes being the only one. Um, but it's my family. My employees are part of my family, so I have to take care of them.
That's awesome. So advocating for the small business, making sure that we understand that the politicians and the people that be understood that pet care is actually an essential business. They're
Absolutely.
a living being that still needs all the things that they need. So I'm kind of curious here, because I haven't quite it hasn't bridged for me yet, how we went from entrepreneur, so I'm a pet store owner, to now your side project that you're blending.
So the side project is a growing project at the same point in time. So Fetch RI is obviously where I started. My store is a holistic pet boutique and supply store. I'm also an herbalist besides being a clinical pet nutritionist, and I'm a firm believer in the mind, body, soul connection. And I really believe that animals, dogs, and cats as energy beings fit into the holistic way of living really well, especially when we as the pet owners honor that, right? Honor them from a mental standpoint of physical, meaning the nutrition, as well as their spirit and the environment, making them happy. That's when they're at their best. And so I had been named a trailblazer in Pets Plus magazine, and was contacted by Bow Wow Labs when they realized that I was a clinical pet nutritionist, because um, they're a young company. They were in the top 10 of 600 pet companies on Kickstarter. And they came to me with this product that they had, that they had already kind of been in market, and, it was showing great results. They've actually had a 10% growth month over month since they've started. And when I started talking with the CEO, Michael London, it became very clear to me that they shared the same vision that I did about, really having, an environment that made dogs happy and healthy and safe. And I don't just mean on that top level where people are just using and throwing words around. I mean, like, on a really deep level, they sincerely want for pet owners to be able to do everything they can to make their pets live as long as possible. Um,
Mm.
and so it was just an immediate connection. And it felt very smooth to me. And I started increasing hours. I didn't just come right on as the board of advisors. I started working with them kind of, a few hours here and there. And the more that I put time into Bow Wow Labs, the more how much I really wanted to continue doing more. And they felt the same back towards me. So the relationship has grown. So right now, I don't know that I'm not going to say it's a side project. What's happening is that as a business owner, you always want to evolve. And so I feel like this is part of my own personal evolution, where I have, taken on this challenge of opening and having the first holistic pet boutique and supply store in the state of Rhode Island, and having this, uh, destination location where people travel from surrounding states to come to my store. And now and I educate them and I teach them about how they can make their animals healthier and what they can do, little shifts that they can make from a nutritional standpoint that are going to make their dogs, be healthier, be happier. Um, I tell them invest in their wellness, not their dog's sickness. Spend your money on making them okay. You don't have to spend it at the veterinarian's office unless they're really sick. And so when Michael approached me to kind of take on more, what really sung to me was this idea of I can actually take the information and my knowledge and how I'm helping local pet owners and take it on a national scale. So to me, that was the icing on the cake, besides the fact that this company, BioWell Labs, is just so impressive and the growth rate is so impressive. And let's be honest, I'm not going to be a millionaire owning a retail store, one retail store in the state of Rhode Island, right? Like I'm not gonna be able to retire off of this. Bow Wow Labs is providing me with opportunities that far exceed anything I ever thought of. So it was a shoo-in, really. And
Yeah.
I feel like I keep adding on hours, but they don't feel like I'm adding on work, right? Because when you do what you love and you do what you're passionate about, you're not ever working. So
Yeah.
I have 2 jobs, one with Fetch RI and one with Bow Wow Labs, but I feel like I'm working less than I ever did. And I can't explain that because I am working harder, right? And more hours than ever. And I have a really supportive husband, thank God.
It
But
really sounds like alignment to me. Like you're
it
just really
absolutely
doing what
is.
you're supposed to be doing, and
Yeah.
that I can feel your passion for wanting to expand.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to have a great idea where you live, right? Like you said,
Right.
help support your community. But when you know so many people could benefit from it, it's that extension benefit. It's I have to get this out, and almost having a personal responsibility to do so. Like I know
Yes.
that this will help. And I'm sure Diane has some stuff to add to this, but on a side question that I'd like to be answered before we finish today, I'm a dog owner. I'm completely oblivious to anything like this. So I'm gonna want like 5 tips that I should know. You know, I just need something like so silly like that of like, enlighten me, tell me something.
I'll give you a tip or two before we leave, I promise.
Yay, thank
That's
you.
great. That's great. And I do love that alignment and that flow that you've created. And I think one thing that a lot of people are facing right now is a deep disalignment because everything's been disrupted for them. And there's so much disruption, and we never really depart from the things that we love and that internal alignment. So many may be leaning into some of that now and starting businesses and getting creative and going into new areas and seeking that alignment. So what are some of the signs for you that you were in clear alignment, and maybe what are some of the signs where you're in total disalignment?
Well, I'm a big advocate in your gut instinct, right? And I think that a lot of times we know intuitively if something is right or wrong, but we try to brain power through it, right? Because it's not rational or it doesn't make sense, or it's how is it going to bring money in? And so we talk ourselves out of it. And I think that if we were to take a moment in that first breath when you have an idea and it feels really good, and throw out the window the am I going to make money? How is this going to make sense? How am I going to make it work? I think most people will realize that it just works somehow in the universe. Not to sound totally out there, but one of the things that I have found that is so great, on social media, just from seeing people on Facebook and Instagram, is so many people, because they have nothing to do, right? They're at their wits' end, going out of their mind. With these stay-at-home orders, is I'm seeing a lot of people doing puzzles, starting to painting rocks, doing little yard projects, doing landscaping projects, and they're probably happier than they've been in a long time. So what I would say is, don't look at something only about the money that you're going to get on the other side of it. Just start doing what you enjoy. And if there's a way that you can integrate what you enjoy, when you do get back to work, even if it's on the weekend or hobby projects, or if you just, produce some paintings and set up a store on Etsy, um, do what makes you happy. I think that's what we've all been missing. A lot of us have missed. I don't feel like I miss that in my life. I'm so enthusiastically happy and passionate with what I do. And I am so blessed and grateful every day that I wake up, that I've been given the opportunities I have. But I think some of us need to step outside of that mentality of, if I'm not going to make a lot of money doing it, I shouldn't even go down the road, because happiness really is more important, I feel.
And it's important not to prejudge the opportunities. I mean, when
Right.
you looked initially at Bow Wow Labs and the initial involvement there, was it as a parent as it is today that you have the potential that you do?
Absolutely not. And let me take it back one step further even. So prior to me opening Fetch RI, I was in the financial world. I had a business. I was making over six figures and I was miserable. I had all the
Mm.
money in the bank. I had no time to go on vacation. I had no time to enjoy it. It didn't matter. I'm not really a spender. So it was just sitting there and I was miserable. And I had people when I shut down that business to say, I'm going to open a pet store. And they're like, are you crazy? And I was like, well, I maybe, I just might be, but
Mhm.
I've saved enough money because I haven't spent it that if it doesn't work, I'll get back on my feet because I believe in who I am and what I have to offer. And I've never looked back. And I've been able to, grow my retail store into something that I'm really, really proud of. And we're continuing to grow. And someone else has seen that opportunity, Michael London and Bow Wow Labs and the great team. And they saw that, the opportunity and the passion that I have. Um, and they decided to ask me to sit at their table with them. And, I never knew when I had that conversation last summer where I would be right now as the director of nutrition and wellness or what that would look like. But thank God I didn't stop and
Yeah.
question my gut
Mhm,
instinct because I
mhm.
wouldn't be here.
Yeah. It's the taking action and then letting the universe catch you.
Yes.
And that's the co-creation. It's the two
Yes.
working together. So I'm willing to take action, but I'm also willing to have the door open to opportunity.
Yes.
And then just as you continue going up, I'm going to
I love
show
that.
up, I'm going to take action, but I'm only responsible for 50%. And as long as I'm here and my heart is open, it's limitless what could actually happen.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's one of the reasons we really wanted to have a show like this, where it's real people talking about their real story, because so often it feels like success happens to someone else.
Yeah.
And it's not the friend next door, and it's, the silver spoon or the whole thing. And it's just I think it's a beautiful journey, just hearing how I took one step and didn't know where it was going to go. And then I took another step and then the opportunity knocked and I was like, hey, that sounds fun. Let's try it. And just watching how this co-creative process really kind of goes down. So I always have to bring it back to the family too, because it's not just us that are on this journey, it's our families with us.
Yes.
So you mentioned having a supportive husband. Is he part of the business too?
No, he's not actually. He also is a self-employed person with a small business. So, um, we're two go-getters in this house.
Awesome. So two
Yeah.
entrepreneurs just
Yeah.
continuing. That's really
Yeah,
neat.
and we lean on each other and we support each other and we lift each other and sometimes we straighten each other out when we get a little bit off balance.
Gotta happen too.
Um, yeah, it's I'm really grateful. Again, I had no idea going into retail really what retail was about. I thought because I had a job in retail when I was 16 that I knew everything I needed to know about retail. And boy, was I wrong. And my husband happens to have a retail division of his business. So he was able to teach me a lot. And good for me, I'm a fast learn. Um, but, again, he leans on me for social media stuff. There's just that constant back and forth and support. And sometimes it's really late nights and he understands, that I'm doing it because I have to. And when I can take a break, I will. And he'll have 100% of my attention and me. Um, and like I said, I'm really grateful that I have him in my corner.
So there's alignment in your support system as well. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I am. My life is about balance. And sometimes it seems very balanced and sometimes it seems a little bit out of balance, but I always just stay the path and it always just realigns.
Perfect. And how about those pet tips? So what are your
Yes.
top
Okay.
5 pet tips?
Top five. Well, I'm going to give you one. The top
Okay, one
one.
is top
Okay.
I'm
1.
going to tell you the top one is the most important because I don't want it to get bogged down in the other four. And I would encourage
Got it.
you to go read the blogs on biolabs.com. But the top one is to add water to your dog food. If you are feeding a dry kibble, the number one thing that you should be doing is adding at least 30% water to the bowl. So when I say this, I don't mean you're going to let it sit there and get mushy. You put the food in the bowl, you put the water in the bowl, and you put the bowl on the ground or on the floor, right? On the ground for your dog to eat it. The reason is that dry food has had all of the moisture basically removed to give it a shelf life. Canines or carnivores, they're supposed to be eating prey that have water or moisture in their body of 70 to 75%. So we've now given them a food that has no moisture in it, asked their digestive system and the juices to not only now rehydrate this food, but also have nutrient assimilation where they're digesting and breaking down and absorbing the nutrients, and the body just can't do it all. So what ends up happening is that the first place that the body steals moisture from is the largest organ, which is the skin. So a lot of people whose dogs have dry skin or dander or lackluster coats, they start adding all of these other supplements, which I'm not saying are not good, salmon oil, whatnot. They're good, but they're not the underlying issue. So adding moisture is the number one thing that you can do to help your dog, help their skin, help their digestive properties. So that would be my number one tip that I wish if no one did anything else, if they just added water to their dog's food, they would see an immediate improvement in their dog's life.
I love
That
it.
was amazing, and I'm doing that immediately.
Yeah, done and done.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to report back because you're going to
Yes,
notice a
you got
difference
it.
very quickly, I assure you.
I'm going to.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being on the show, Johnna. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you
Yes,
so much
thank
for
you
having
so
me. It's been a
much.
pleasure.
This has been Business Therapy, healing businesses from the inside out through communication and emotional intelligence. I'm Diane Dye Hansen, management consultant.
Christine Salvo, therapist, mediator, and hypnotherapist. Have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for listening.
Have a great morning.
Bye.